morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Not even me with all of my allergies and issues. None of that. I can't complain about that. It's springtime here. Let me make sure we're not doing the reflection. No, there's no way to avoid the reflection game here, I guess, right? We got a reflection game, whether we like it or not. Let me see. Why the hell isn't that one? Well, whatever. We got lights, we got reflections. It's true, I have studio lights, guys. I can't hide it from you. I can't. Now you know the truth about me. I'm a type of guy who uses studio lighting, right? So now you know. No more hiding it. Noah Simpson now. Hi, Nolan. Hi, Awakeners. I made it today. Nice to see you. Does anyone remember which episode was all about hermetic principles and Bitcoin? I've done that a few times, Noah. I've embraced the hermetic principles on a number of occasions. Maybe go back and look at if you go on my X account and you look at images, you'll probably come across a day where I posted the hermetic principles. And that's probably a sign that I did a show on them that day. Not sure if that helps, but I really got to do better indexing of the shows. Since I relaunched the show as The Great Awakening, I don't even think I put episode numbers up, so that makes it even harder for you guys. I don't know what episode we're on. I don't know, maybe 300, something like that. But I really ought to do that stuff. Jesus is King. Good morning, crew. Yeah, not sure exactly. No, Chef Zero in the house. Nice to see you, Chef Zero. But you are chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people belonging to God, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into this wonderful light. Peter 2:9. Thank you for that, Chef Zero. Blessings of a beautiful day, Bampians, indeed. JJ Fox in the house. Good morning, gang. So glad to see you're all alive and kicking. We're doing great, but not so much. Scott Adams' wife, indeed. JJ Fox, ain't good. I was very shocked when I read that, and really bad news. They're going to keep the whole thing private, of course, as they asked. And but I couldn't help but look in the comments, and I'd say the number one reason given, or speculated reason, was that caregiving, especially end-of-life caregiving, can be such a drain on individuals, and it can be so debilitating. Mortality and death are things you can catch. I mean, it's contagious. Believe it or not, it's contagious, just like bad moods are contagious, and all of this stuff. So it doesn't even mean the virus, like he died of cancer, which is not contagious, but the degradation and watching the demise every day, and then what it must have done to her after, just looks like that scenario. I don't know what it is. But I could see her falling into a pretty deep hole and getting sick, and then just not being able to recover after that. And so I don't want to know what happened, in a sense, because they asked for privacy, and I'd rather not break that. But of course, curiosity has me. I know everyone freaking out. I saw Viva Fries suggest suicide. I don't think it's. I mean, a lot of people thought suicide instantly. I just don't believe that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I get why people say it, but it still just doesn't make any sense. So, but indeed, yeah, it really stuck with me most of the afternoon after I heard that, because, when someone brings you news of someone dying like she did, and you guys remember, we were all together when we found out that he was dead, and we played the announcement from her. Just her being at the threshold of his death made her seem, it underlined her aliveness and her vitality, and watching her through the wake. I know I was talking about the funeral. I guess not really a wake, but I was talking with her, with Cerno, Mike Cernovich, about the funeral. I happened to be on a flight to Dubai the day of the funeral, and so I watched it, in the airplane and the airport and all that kind of stuff. And so I was talking to him about that last week, and she was just she had organized it all, and you could tell she had a big active role in everything. And likewise, she was appearing on the Scott Adams School follow-up to Coffee with Scott Adams show that's now running daily. And you'll probably see BJ Dichter and other favorite Bitcoiners. I've been invited. I will go shortly. I just haven't been able to find the time. It just sort of conflicts with what I do here, and it just hasn't been that convenient to me. So we'll do it one day. We'll do some kind of a crossover thing. But indeed, it's it just stuck with me because, like I said, she just seems so alive because she's there to announce his death, and now don't like it at all. Good morning, family. Young Tommy back in the house. Happy to finally be back in Nashville. I'm bummed, young Tommy. I didn't get a chance to see Eric while I was there, your partner in crime. I saw his wife and heard about the child and things like that, but I missed meeting Eric at the event, which is a letdown for me. I heard he was tucked away in some kind of operational room, but congrats on the great art show and the great event. I got the t-shirts, young Tommy. I'll wear them next time, but I did get the t-shirt, so thank you so much. You'll see your 8-bit camel pretty soon here on the show. And I'm glad you're back in Nashville. Doug T, excited about Tom Luongo being on the show Friday. Been following him since he was on Marty Ben several years ago. Good to see worldviews matching over time. Indeed, I am also excited about Tom Luongo. And it turns out I will be with Tom Luongo as a guest as well on the BTC Sessions show in early June. So that's exciting. You'll get a lot more Tom Luongo and me together content. I'm looking forward to it. Tom's a cool guy. Lee J369, good morning, Count and crew. We got some Alberta content on there today for you, Lee J369. Coinbase, 14% layoff, says JJ Fox. Yeah, to be expected. A lot of these exchanges grew staff-wise. I mean, I worked for one of them, and I've never understood why they need so many people. It's just crazy. Because all they end up doing is bringing in more sludge people who don't get anything done, who spend all their time making it hard for the productive people by gossiping and doing all these internal court intrigue things. And so I bet you, just assuming what I know about other companies, that Coinbase is absolutely riddled with disgusting court intrigue and bullshit like that. Everyone competitive on the inside and not really caring about what the company does on the outside. So, I'd say has nothing to do with industry headwinds or anything like that. I think Coinbase is minting. They're literally minting money these days with their trash tokens that come out of there. But yeah, it's typical of what's going on in the industry, especially for a public company. Good morning, folks. Good morning, 72 Jet Lance 2002. Thanks to Bitcoin, the word power has a double meaning. Exactly what I went for with today's title, the double meaning of the word power. We love it. Chatelet nerds, let's get after it. Indeed, barely 45. Same here, Doug T. I also saw Tom on Marty Bent Pod. Been a patron ever since. Amazing. Escape the Matrix in the house. Yo, Chatelet. Back from Vegas. Caught up on work. Caught up on the show. Was awesome meeting and hanging out with you, Nolan. Indeed, it was. Escape the Matrix. It was great hanging out with you. It was great meeting in person. I love meeting all you Great Awakening gang folks in person. It's important to me. Always wave and say hi if we're ever in the same physical space together. So good to finally have a face to go with the name Escape the Matrix. Indeed. CB Van, good morning to the finest of folk. That's us. We're here. Jack 2K, good morning, Nolan and Great Awakening crew, and happy Tuesday from a rainy Chicago. It was just pouring rain here, and we got some sun piercing through. My wife took that as a cue to go pick up the children. And let me make sure I have my phone on the ready, actually, because she's headed out to the countryside picking up the children. They've been there for the last 2 days, having a good time with my mom, enjoying life and enjoying the countryside, enjoying the mountains and the spring and the forests and all the stuff I grew up around, and they're loving it. Citadel Daniel says, any other prog attendees in the house? Let me know. We're having an early evening get-together in Old Town on June 12th for citadelvault.org launch. Good luck with that, Citadel Daniel. Citadel.vault.org launch will be June 12th from the old town of Prague. That sounds like a lot of fun. High signal over there in Prague. Chef Zero says, here be the count of Bitcoin Landia. Take a bow, count NBC, catching counter, now running. We're winning. Been fortunate to meet with Tom Longo twice here at speaking events in Alberta. Big Sabres fan. Would be a great convo Friday. He's going to get it. I didn't know he was a Sabres fan. I didn't know. I got to give him the gears about that. I don't like this match for the Canadians, though. I don't like the Sabres are a big. Why is it that the Canadians are stuck perpetually for decades now in this? The minute they come up against a big team, they're screwed. Like, why is it always the case? Why can't we play big person hockey in Montreal? I don't understand. That looks like it's what's going to happen. We'll see if we make it. We'll see if we make it. There you go. Cornerstone, Lee J, correct Jet. JJ Fox, wonder if the 14% corner is attributed to AI. So here's my thing. They'll always say it's AI because everyone buys that excuse now, even if it has nothing to do with AI. But you're always going to hear, well, we learned about AI stuff and we got some efficiencies, so blah, and it's all bullshit. It's just an easy way to describe what has to be done. It's harder to say, well, we're making more money than ever and things are going really, really great. And what we actually realized is we don't need many of you and time to downsize because we've got some shareholder pressure or we have some, benchmarks we've got to meet. People don't like to hear that. Because everyone's going with the AI thing, you're just going to hear that no matter what. So I wouldn't trust. Now, maybe there is some truth to AI being involved in the headcount, but not the AI I'm using. I don't see how that's solving anyone's problems. I love AI, but it's not making me, it gives me more things to do and I can do them better, but I don't see how it would take a corporate structure yet anyway. I just don't think we're there. Some companies, sure. In the case of Coinbase, I think most of the jobs are fake to begin with. And so AI or not, it's all fake jobs and they can come and go. And you just use this, fake AI thing in order to say, whoops. That's how I see all this AI stuff. So to what extent, what degree of reality AI is actually causing these job losses, I'm skeptical. But I think you'll see everyone using it as an excuse. So there you go. We love the reflection, loving these lights. AI has to do with it. Yeah. Next thing you'll have an audio engineer, says Citadel Daniel. I'm the audio engineer now, Citadel Daniel. I became one. Brian shared the email, gives all the reasons. Yeah. Thanks, Nolan. I didn't even read it because I can just assume what the letter is. Written by AI. It's just going to be, well, things are on. Gotta get rid of people, too much stuff. So there you go. Brom is asking, well, hold on. Thanks, Nolan. Was searching X. I'm missing all this. Finally made it in time. Hey, another frog. Brom is asking, I forget what Brom you're talking about. Many suspect suicide. Yeah, said she did not do it to herself for whatever that's worth. Yeah, I don't buy the suicide thing. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that also. Erica following closely the missing DARPA Los Alamos labs. Oh, yeah. Wow, we lost them also suddenly. Yeah. Perhaps talking about the wrong Erica, might be out of the loop on this one. My bad. So I don't think taken out. Seaberger popped in and wondered who died. Indeed, it was Scott Adams' wife, who we all spent time with during Scott Adams' passing just a few weeks ago. Yeah, there the comments have come up. You're probably right about the art of distraction. So either way, we're both short or Nolan is tall. I'm pretty tall. You're probably right. Was surprised how tall you are. Okay, yeah. There we go. I said the exact same thing. Yeah, I'm not that tall, but I'm 6'2". I'm not a tall person's tall. I'm to tall people. I'm short. But for most people, I look tall. For most people, the summarize the caption of the YouTube was pretty useful for finding the Hermetics episode, having much better luck. That's true. You can use the sneaky tall, sneaky tall. Yeah, there you go. You're probably right. There you go. Okay, I'm going to use the same as from the band Genius, that Brian Armstrong. Yeah, exactly. It's all just no pure managers. Yeah. It's I think young Tommy talking about Coinbase stuff. All right, so there you go, guys. We got a major sunrise on our hands. Bitcoin over 80,000. I think the comments are saying we're at 81,000. Let's see. Where did I just see that comment? 81,561 US trash tokens for Bitcoin as of this morning. It looks like we're consolidating above 80,000 US trash tokens for a Bitcoin. Sun's up. We're doing great, everyone. Let's have a coffee. Talk about what's new. When our folks in the YouTube chat, I've been ignoring you. Nolan with lights. Yeah, bubble popped. Thank you for this new morning. The sun is up, Bitcoin is running, and Jesus is king. Bless this community and count BTC with wisdom and humility. Thanks for that, Jeff Neubauer. I appreciate it. Good morning, team. Good morning, Jonataro. Dude, Habs had the most hits of any team in round one. Tampa tried to goon it up and we're matched them. Big hockey is here. Yeah, but Buffalo's a lot bigger than Tampa's not that big. They're the same as Montreal. They're little guys. I would love to have this albatross of being a small team off us. And I love Jack Guy. We got big guys. I know, but it never seems to be enough. We're always using big guys to get over the little guy. I love the little guys. Don't get me wrong. I'm not asking to trade Cole Caulfield or any of our little guys. Not unhappy with them. Love the team. But, it just seems like a Sisyphean punishment for the Habs. It's like they're just life is being a small team now. I don't know why. There you go. All right, let's talk about some NPC news this morning. Let's find out what's going on with the NPCs. It's not going great. I'll be honest. They're having a lot of trouble today. Why is this always off now? No one knows. There we go. Thermos, everyone, the popular food and beverage insulated container company, is voluntarily recalling more than 8 million jars and bottles for injury risk after several people suffered permanent vision loss. Guys, permanent vision loss from your thermos. Totally legit. We get this one from Canada. This is a two-parter. Ready? Globe Politics. Ottawa to fast track permanent residency for up to 33,000 temporary foreign workers, but also that should cut down the work on the following story. Ottawa to start tracking which temporary foreign residents have left Canada after permits run out. Wait, what? 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 It just didn't matter, I guess, before. Temporary, foreign, permanent, who knows? So these are two actual stories on the same day in Canada. So you got one, some of those temporary people are they're gonna make them permanent. And then the other ones who are temporary, we're gonna figure out if they left. We'll see. If not, we'll make them permanent. We get this from the Daily Mail revealed. Green's hopeful, who is calling for the UK to pay slavery reparations, is a descendant of slave traders. What? Whoops. What? She has to pay? Is she going to pay? Are we going to have African English people paying slave reparations? Doubt it. Oh, guys, there was a Pulitzer awarded. Here's what we know. Columnist Gessen has been awarded the 2026 Pulitzer Prize in Opinion Writing for an illuminating collection of reported essays on rising authoritarian regimes that draw on history and personal experience to probe timely themes of oppression, belonging and exile. Mr. Gessen wins Pulitzer Prize in opinion writing, and this is what we know. Here are his letters that he's written, his opinion pieces. We get this from February 2025, the chilling consequences of going along with Trump. The barrage of Trump's awful ideas is doing exactly what it's supposed to. The third one, beware, we are entering a new phase of the Trump era. Number 4, the man Putin couldn't kill. How to be a good citizen when your country does bad things. This is the feeling of losing a country. I know it well. The ruling about passports isn't about ID. It's about social control. Guys, you're living in a Trump-induced authoritarian regime, and thank God we've got the Pulitzer. Thank God this guy's here to warn you. He loves you. Mr. Gessen is helping you. That's what we got, helping you. Big help. Is it a guy or a girl, actually? Nobody knows. Do we know? Read all of Gessen's. I've never heard of this guy. Yeah, I shouldn't jump to. I shouldn't. Sorry, but I shouldn't jump to give this person their pronouns because we just don't know. No one knows, guy or girl. I hope I get it right. I hope I don't insult this person who's doing such great work calling out authoritarianism in America. Now we know this one's great. This one, we need some audio, but screw it. We'll skip the audio. This is what we found out after a natural disaster. Guys, don't you know the old feeling? Get a little natural disaster, right? You're in a little hurricane. I've been through a lot of hurricanes and all this stuff over the last couple of years. And there you are. Guess who shows up every time, right? Natural disasters, white nationalists, militias, and conspiracists often arrive offering help. Everyone knows the old story. There's a hurricane. And then the conspiracists showed up, and the militias and the white nationalists, right? This comes right after the Southern Poverty Law Center article or expose 2 weeks ago. So there you go. That's what we got. That is our fake news of the day. We got one more here from LA. This one's great. We got Kamala Harris endorses Karen Bass for LA mayor, claiming she's stamped out crime and homelessness. Guys, things are going great. There's no homelessness in LA. Things are awesome. Everyone knows there's no homeless. LA is paradise. They don't have any zombie outposts. They don't have any homelessness. What are you talking about? Poverty. LA is doing great. Everyone keeps saying it. It's the best. It's the best. It's the richest city. It's the best city. We all love it. So that is our NPC news of the day, and I'm gonna stop this because I want audio after this. I'm gonna clean up some of these pages, get rid of them, have a sip of coffee. I can't believe that Pulitzer won. Those are just great headlines, huh? Those are really great headlines. Those are awesome. So here's the thing about the LA race, and it's important because what we're seeing here is, you get this question all the time. What are the people on the right gonna do after Trump leaves office? And I keep saying it doesn't really matter, because what ended up happening was Trump showed everyone how to communicate, how to model communication. It's the reason I was a 2015 Trump enthusiast, because I knew what it was like to play the media game according to the liberal rules, because that's what really in the end led to the end of Canada, is that the media was so corrupted and the conservatives so stupid that they thought that they could be right about things and that the dishonest media would acknowledge how correct they are. They thought, the conservatives that I worked with, the Stephen Harper era in Canada, they thought, now, some kind of a pump situation down there for a second. So when I first recognized, and the reason I went 2 feet first into Bitcoin was because I said politics were completely broken and impossible to fix. The reason I said that back in 2014, 2015, 2013 even, is because I saw that Canada was going to get Justin Trudeau as prime minister, whether we liked it or not, and that no amount of being right on policy was ever going to stop the fake news from writing the stories they wanted to write, which is that Trudeau is great and conservatives are Nazis. This whole blueprint existed in Canada many years before it existed in the United States. In many ways, Canada is just that, right? Canada is like a testing ground for psyops to see how they'll function on America. We're a really great proxy for America just to gauge how things work. That's why Canada was so far ahead on populism even before Trump came onto the scene, because the right wing that was trying to function within the media parameters, already many people in Canada knew it wasn't going to work. And so you had a lot of Canadians like Rob Ford and these others. Remember the crack smoking New York, Toronto mayor. We already had this populist versus conservative split inside of Canada, inside of the so-called right wing in Canada. And the people like myself who were on that sort of populist side said, none of this playing by the media games are ever going to work. I remember what we did in conservative politics when Stephen Harper became prime minister. He spent his time policing the Senate because we had all of these privileges, right? The stupid privileges we had in the Senate when I worked there were we had cleaning ladies, or men, I guess some of them were men. So we could throw parties in our offices and someone else would clean it up later. Whoa, that is literally what Stephen Harper's number one priority was when he took office with his majority government in 2011, was hunting down conservatives wasting money on in parliament, doing, partying and stuff like that. And I was like, why the fuck? And, it was a bit much. It's true. The cleaning people had like white gloves and it was all very aristocratic because the Senate in Canada was based on the House of Lords, which made it, a kind of country club, if you will. And he made it his mission to penny pinch on that, as if Canadians were going to reward him for saving a couple bucks here and there. I said, no. You got to get rid of the CBC. That's what you got to do first. You got to go after the media and how this stuff is created. Otherwise, they're going to eat you alive. The conservatives that I worked for, again, were a split of populists and GOP style balance the budget conservatives, completely obsessed with stupid, what's his name? Paul Ryan minutia, like that old GOP was. Oh, we're going to save a bit of balance the budget. People are going to care. Meanwhile, Trudeau is making shit up saying the budget will balance itself. He said that once in Canada. The budget will balance itself. And people are like, he's so stupid. Oh my God, how dumb is he? And I was like, you think that they care about him being right or wrong, and then that will determine how elections go? That's never going to be the case. That's not how people make up their mind about anything. So I knew that they were going to destroy Stephen Harper in Canada. I knew that there was no way of being right and having the media reward you. So being right didn't matter. You had to destroy the media, destroy and find new ways to communicate. And so when people today ask me what'll happen to conservatism or populism or whatever it is once Trump is gone, I say, well, nothing, because we all learn now from Trump. If it wasn't for Trump, we would have never understood that. That was one of his big advantages, which is why I was happy from the moment he won in 2016 and said he doesn't even have to govern. I don't really care what he does after that. I tuned out of politics until Charlottesville and SPLC and all that stuff started, because I said, this is over now. They're eventually going to be charmed by Trump and his success and all of that, and they're not going to be able to go to the next level. They went to the next level with their ops and their crazy shit, but with SPLC and Charlottesville and Russia, all things we're still talking about today. But that's what sucked me back in to pay attention to politics, because I had misjudged the extent to which consent was being manufactured. We're going to talk about that today. I misjudged the extent to which the brainwashing apparatus was going to kick into a totally new gear of disingenuousness and fakeness. And it ended up doing that, of course. And so luckily in my world, Bitcoin and this media angle both came together. So I was able to not, have to pay attention to two separate sports. They all became one game, and that is Bitcoin and the financial system, which pays for all of this propaganda, which is why I got into all of those whiteboards describing the financing mechanisms behind fiat and how it leads to propaganda and why we're so saturated in propaganda these days. And so, again, when people ask me what is going to happen next, I often say, well, because Trump changed reality, because he changed how we deal with the media, because he was the first who didn't think there was some reward for being right. There was a reward for winning, and that's it. And you do what you have to do to win. And here again, what we're seeing in the mayor race in LA is proof of that theory playing out, because Spencer Pratt, when you go and you see, just like I said, this Karen Bass going for her, she solved homelessness, and you've got Kamala Harris saying she solved homelessness, and you realize it's all fake and it doesn't matter, and it's just more garbage and more insane stuff. You start to understand that Pratt is functioning on a completely different level. He's functioning on that level that he now understands that the game has changed, just like the Canadians didn't understand. He's operating in that world that Trump has created for all of us in order to communicate on this wrestling level, on this new level of persuasion. But here you can see from this Spencer Pratt video that I'm about to play, just how clever he is and how we have people now that have learned from what Trump did and are starting to adapt. And here, this is how it starts. So Karen Bass in this video here, she's with that, I don't know, this is Katie Fang, one of the stupidest people in legacy media. I'm not going to make fun of her looks at all. She's made fun of other people's looks. That's her thing, I guess. But here, just listen to this video of how Karen Bass is treating Spencer Pratt. And in the same way that conservatives used to believe that telling the truth would get them voters, here's Karen Bass doing her own version of a ostrich and ignoring the media game that Spencer Pratt is playing. And this is the reverse problem that conservatives got into in Canada, and you're seeing it manifest. So this is the weak and low media literacy coming through of the Democrats at this particular moment in time.
Feel about honestly, before this, I had never heard of Spencer Pratt. So
well, you aren't missing out on anything, so it's okay, but please go on.
Exactly. But the thing I am concerned and feel about him is that I feel like he's exploiting the grief of people in the Palisades, and I think that's right. Reprehensible. That's the main thing, and I think he is about his own celebrity. He's famous now again.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this for just a second, though, right? Because these fires were so tragic, and they most certainly are something that is top of mind for you as the mayor of LA. But the way that Pratt's going about trying to, I really haven't heard a proposal for a solution or a remedy on being able to fix these problems for him. I've just kind of heard a lot of just inflammatory rhetoric, frankly. Like, talk about why it's different to actually have been in the role as mayor.
So anyway, she's going to go on about retarded stuff. I won't make you listen to it. There she is. But here's the thing, and this is even from a lefty, Yashar Ali, saying, remarkably foolish way to respond to this. Bass is talking about Spencer Pratt as if he's an outsider. He could make an additive of this comment considering he is a victim of the fires, and indeed calling him, some kind of carpetbagger on this, trying to be famous, is again just very poor media savvy, especially when you look at how many people Spencer Pratt is connecting with, and especially if you look at his ability to frame these media conversations. Here he is with one of the victims, who he is.
How are you enjoying your new rental? So that's what I thought. Okay, well.
Oh my god, so emotional. I feel like all I do is cry.
You do. Well, I understand why.
I just really wish we could have sold our lot and bought a house in Santa Monica on Montana. So I really wish. The Palisades is just so depressing.
It'll be a lot easier to sell a house you build on a lot than selling just a lot. So there's way more chance for it to buy a brand new, nobody's lived in house than a dirt lot. So if that's what you decide in a year,
Yeah.
way more chance to sell that than dirt.
Yeah, because the Palisades isn't going to come back for a long time.
And, you know, he's got all of this capacity. Here's another one picking up on it. Dion Joseph saying his campaign ads are brilliant. He doesn't take stage pics with school kids, no walking the streets with smiling fake cops, no choreographed walking and pointing at a construction site with a hard hat on, just the reality of what a city is facing. And indeed, that's the lesson everyone has learned from Trump. Trump has always been authentic in his ads, or in the way he communicates and the way he persuades. And that's really how much things have changed. That old fake choreographed political type messaging just comes nowhere near what this new bottom-up system really does cultivate in terms of interest and
Los Angeles losing tens of thousands of residents, one of the biggest population drops in the nation.
Everyday life is just becoming unsafe.
One of the most dangerous streets in all of Los Angeles, and now
man killed near the LA Convention Center. Billions in homeless funds were poorly tracked.
It's far more sexy to talk about all these billions of dollars that are missing and blah, blah, blah.
And it's impacting businesses.
Thinking about selling or closing my business.
Lost my job, lost my business.
Are struggling to stay open because of all the devastation.
Business as usual is a death sentence for Los Angeles.
They have lost 50% of their business.
A whole lot of stores are being closing down here locally.
Unfortunately, business has been fairly slow.
It's crazy.
Dozens of restaurants across LA closing shop this year.
You never know what's going to happen to you.
The system in Los Angeles isn't struggling, it's fundamentally broken.
The city failed everyone. The insurance companies failed everyone.
Mothers that want to go to the park, that don't want to inhale fentanyl smoke from the 70,000 drug addicts that the mayor currently lets live on our streets.
Drugs and prostitutes while walking their kids to class.
Angelinos are done.
And it's a humanitarian disaster.
We have 6 people dying every day in the streets. Over 100 restaurants just in LA have closed in the last year. Everyone is done.
More and more restaurants across the city, new and old, are going out of business.
They did everything possible to keep their doors open.
Several businesses along the famed Sunset Strip have closed in recent months.
After 16 years of business,
Restaurants really are struggling.
closing on March 31st. They shut down earlier this month, closing after 3 years of business, shut their doors permanently by the end of the month.
We, the business owners, are being hit so hard. They say they have absolutely no idea what their future holds.
Laying off employees and closing stores.
We're not backfilling positions. We're not growing in the state anymore.
Worst case scenario, you just said that you may have to shut down.
Stepping on fentanyl needles, human poop, everything smells like pee. It is disgusting.
The number of people who die every day on our streets gets worse.
All over LA, there's people with just fentanyl smoke blowing next to swing sets in every park. This is psycho.
Dogs that are neglected, abused, and sometimes set on fire.
Fighting to survive after being set on fire in South Los Angeles.
A 1-year-old shepherd mix set on fire.
Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them?
If you're not shocked by what you see, then I don't know what you would be shocked by.
Just giving you needles and pipes on the street and dropping off a sandwich is not helping these people.
It's far more sexy to talk about all these billions of dollars that are missing and blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. So he continues to be just, top shelf communicator. Here's another video where he takes
I
aim
love
at
your
Karen Bass
reaction to
yesterday.
Karen Bass, who says you're exploiting the grief of people in the Palisades.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Karen Bass forgot that she let my house burn down and my parents' house burn down. And I had actual neighbors burn alive across the street from my childhood home. The only grief is my grief, my community's grief, that I initially started this.
And I told, when this happened, it's also because, you know, Pacific Palisades is one of the quintessential and extraordinary, purely American towns or suburbs or neighborhoods or whatever, however you want to qualify it. And it is so purely Americana that its destruction would be framed, could be used and framed as a real weapon against the system that made it happen. And that's exactly what's happening a year
Fight
later.
on behalf of, and she forgets I've received 2 community advocate awards from the Pacific Palisades community. So it's the most insane, psycho, diabolical thing I've heard in a minute, but it's not shocking. This is the same woman that will allow 7,000 houses to burn to the ground, 12 people to burn alive, and then actively cover it up, get caught covering it up, and then say that the LA Times is lying, even though they have the emails where she's altering the after action report, which, as far as I'm concerned, is obstruction of justice. So it's disgusting. It's disgusting. The fact that she's trying to think that I want to be in this position. I want to be back in my life that she let burn down. That's why I got into this race, because somebody like her should not be in a position of power ever again.
And of course, everyone remembers her, you know, communist ties, and that's well known, right? We all know that she's been one of these commies for a long time. Here it says Los Angeles mayor candidate dog walks Karen Bass, and you see that he's just adept. And here's Rufo with an excellent take. And this is, again, why I think that we're seeing people learn how to communicate, why we're seeing a complete alteration of the fiat top-down narrative machine. Christopher Rufo saying the Pratt campaign is interesting because he intuitively understands that the only path to victory is through a media spectacle. California is a one-party state, and the entire institutional apparatus is designed to create a closed system ruled by the left. Mobilizing the public via media narratives is the only avenue for shifting public opinion and perhaps votes. The Pratt campaign is still a long shot, but he is playing the game with style and skill. If I were in Los Angeles, I would cast my vote for him. And that's just it. It's not, you can't completely go off script. That's why that ad of him using legacy media clips was really important, because you've got to do it inside the system. You've got to operate within that system, and you've got to find ways to communicate within that bubble. And as I've said many times, doing it inside the bubble is way more effective than trying to speak to your own bubble in order to get them angry and riled up and all these things. So it's an excellent approach. You know, it's a very similar approach, right? This idea of using the media spectacle. Frankly, the whole world is learning about it, but Iran has also learned about it. So you're looking over at Iran, and when you see all of these Lego videos, the only way for Iran in this whole Strait of Hormuz thing is to underline the domestic American situation in order to move the needle, because there's probably no way they can get where they want to be without talking about the American political situation. It's the only hope that the Iranians really have in the end. Nothing else they can do will really save them from this story and what's coming for them. So, you know, turning to Iran and the updates, what's going on in the Strait. Like I said, you've got the Iranians using the media in a very similar way to Pratt, in that they know their only way forward is creating some form of turbulence in American politics. We got an update today on the Strait of Hormuz. So People saying that the ceasefire is somewhat holding, I guess you can say. Ships are going through. We're seeing ships make it through, transiting. We're seeing the American opening of the straits function for American ships. So that's been a change. We've seen some targets struck, of course, by the Iranians. I think there's a plane down. There was a part of the infrastructure from UAE, the pipeline that was hit. A couple of ships, merchant ships, were hit. And you've got an update this morning from Hexith on what's going on with the strait. So apparently they're going to be attacking all kinds of shorebound ships going forward. They're seeing here from Hexith saying the following: Secretary of War announced that the primary objective of Project Freedom is to safeguard international commercial vessels from Iranian aggression and ensure that the unhindered flow of global trade through the Strait of Hormuz for America's own allies and partners and people they want. The Americans have floated a couple of its, I'm not sure what these are, destroyers, but these are the destroyers that sailed through. There they are. These are the ones that made it. So a couple of ships have gone through. A couple of Maersk ships have been allowed to exit the strait. So we're seeing more and more of that. It looks like they're able to deter and strike back on a few of these ships. Here's Sal Mercogliano with his update. 2 U.S. flag commercial ships sail through the strait. Project Freedom, U.S. mission to escort merchant vessels. The Joint Information Maritime Center. So there was some rumors yesterday. The IRGC said they struck some American destroyers. Now we're in, this is a surreal war in that you can't really trust any media from any side. But the Maritime Information Center came out and said, no, not true. They're not quite as playful with reality as Trump is. So I would probably, if they're going to come out and deny it, probably more on the truth side. If it's just Trump coming out and saying they didn't hit anything, then I would say probably bullshit. But you get the Joint Maritime Information Center saying the same thing. So sounds legit. So Mercogliano breaks the whole thing down. What's going on? I'm not going to play the whole clip, but he has some really good insights here. How the escorts are going, what we can expect to see. It looks like we're at the limit of the power projection on the part of the Iranians. It looks like they gave it their all yesterday. What we do understand is that the ceasefire is still holding and that the division between the IRGC and the government over there is more and more apparent. So apparently the president of Iran here said the IRGC's UAE strikes are completely irresponsible and madness. So you're seeing that division between the IRGC and that division between the IRGC and the political part of the mullahs. So pretty important division. We've been saying that was the path forward for a while, that you're going to see targeted strikes against IRGC members until they become weakened so the political side can get its way. We'll see here, but what we know is that the ships that transited made it through, that they're fully loaded. You've got all the details here. They've got Apache helicopters on them, missile interceptors. They've got all kinds of things they can throw at the problem. Here's what we know from the last few hours. A recap. Despite Iran attacking the UAE yesterday, somehow the ceasefire is still holding. Trump played down the attack, and the U.S. is continuing to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz, while Iranian lawmakers were reportedly furious with the IRGC for launching the attack on the UAE without consulting them first. Netanyahu's no doubt heartbroken, as it seems Trump is setting his sights on Cuba now to try and get a quick win, and he can spin the USS Abraham Lincoln heads back from the Middle East. While at Iran's southern port of Deir, fires broke out on several commercial barges. Nothing major. It's either lax health and safety or Mossad up to its usual tricks. Not sure. But here's the fallout. Here's Tom Luongo, and I've got both Tom Luongo and James Thorne with very similar points of view. Here's Luongo's take. The IRGC's attack on the UAE today was both predictable and sad. Predictable because the pipeline to Fujairah was a direct threat to their global oil and gas blackmail. Sad because, again, the IRGC chose death in the wake of Trump formally and legally in the U.S., ending Operation Epic Fury to ensure that a sympathetic or traitorous Congress couldn't come to their rescue by restraining Trump. They could have effectively negotiated a surrender over a war they've lost and a gambit that they've been outplayed in, but they didn't, and now the Iranian people will suffer. And they've done this all to serve the designs of those in Europe and, yes, London, to keep this conflict going in the vain hope of drawing Trump into a war he's not going to fight. Their leverage is gone. The U.S. Navy is escorting ships through the strait. The only ones not going through are obvious co-conspirators, mostly Indian, nay, British, trying to keep this thing in the headlines and the global threat to oil prices up. Now they've given him all the legal justification he needs to do which he pre-positioned a whole lot of military power to do, and they have no one but themselves to blame for it. All of this while there is no direct attack on the UAE currency. All of this while there was a direct attack on the UAE currency and the US 30-year bond market, which is the playground of the Bank of England, took place during a British banking holiday when gilt markets were closed. And so indeed, we're seeing here from leveraged USTs having a great take on this. We've interviewed Matt last year in Hong Kong, and he continues to be a useful resource to this show. James Thorne saying the following: for the record, Iran's historic mistake. He says here, Iran's historic mistake. Claude von Clausewitz wrote, "The war is the continuation of politics by other means." President Trump grasped this from the start. Operation Epic Fury exists to stop Iran's nuclear march and restore deterrence, not to pursue the familiar neocon fantasy of occupation and nation building. Epic Fury is peace through strength and action, credible force applied decisively when adversaries mistake restraint for weakness. By weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz, Iran committed a strategic blunder of historic proportions. Tehran meant to punish America. Instead, it exposed every power built on imported energy, vulnerable sea lanes, and the delusion that globalization repealed geography. China is exposed, Europe is exposed, Britain is exposed. Iran has created a world where hard resource power decides outcomes. Start with China. Beijing's industrial machine depends on imported oil and gas moving through vulnerable maritime choke points, the old Malacca dilemma in modern form. A great power reliant on long exposed sea lanes cannot be secure, regardless of economic scale. The Hormuz shock forced China to scramble for alternatives, proving that size is not resilience. Europe and Britain face the same problem. After escaping Russian dependency, they traded one vulnerability for another, leaning on imported LNG and maritime flows, exposed to coercion. When choke points tighten, they absorb shocks rather than project strength. European criticism says less about American failure than about discomfort with a world where hard power still matters. Iran's mistake is that once Hormuz becomes structurally unreliable, the world builds around it. That means bypass corridors, revived pipeline politics, and urgent planning for routes linking Aqaba to Mediterranean outlets near Gaza and the long-stalled Basra to Aqaba pipeline. The old order, energy order, is cracking. The UAE's OPEC exit signals cartel discipline, giving way to national advantage under pressure. Trump deserves credit, not Europeans. Scolding Operation Epic Fury struck thousands of targets, degraded Iran's offensive capabilities, and shattered assumptions that the West would absorb escalation without response. The administration acted while others lectured. It restored deterrence in the only language Tehran understands. The larger lesson matters more. Secure natural resource hard power is what the Western Hemisphere possesses in abundance. The United States, Canada, and the Americas command hydrocarbons, LNG, farmland, fresh water, critical minerals, and strategic depth on a scale import-dependent Europe and Asia cannot match. This crisis clarified, not weakened, the America's structural position. The financial dimension reinforces the point. Demand for Federal Reserve swap lines during the crisis proves king, dollar remains supreme. When stress hits, government run toward dollar liquidity, not away from it. Hard resource power and monetary power reinforce one another, and the United States sits at the center of both. That is Epic Fury's real significance. Clausewitz wrote that the political view is the object, war is the means. Trump understood that. Iran tried to weaponize geography. Trump turned the confrontation into a demonstration of who is exposed and who is not. The Trump administration deserves far more praise than it has received, and history will likely judge that Iran's greatest miscalculation was not merely closing Hormuz, but revealing which powers still command the real sources of strength. And that's why this attempt to manipulate markets, to manipulate what we saw with the 30-year situation in the United States with the 30-year bond, this attempt to attack the oil prices and UAE's attack on currency simply didn't work. Here is Matt with that point here saying UAE and US Treasury long bond both getting attacked this morning, the same day. So we have the weaponized autists, we have the people looking at this stuff, and we understand that it was about these markets, it was about the control over the oil markets that allowed this system and the oil pricing that allowed this dark age to be created, to perpetuate. Here is Susan Boyd talking exactly about that, right? And this is why following the money gives us a better sense of what's going on. And I'm going to restart it, and I got to go check on one thing. So I'm going to be disappearing for 1 second here, and I'll be right back. But again, what's important is that what's important indeed is that we're looking at how we got to this point with media and how oil was used. And that's why it's in, why I've created a million of these whiteboards over time, that each of them always showed oil's role in the, let me find the media. And all of these things I've created over time, these whiteboards, right? You always see that I put oil close to the top, right? I put oil close to the top each and every time. So here you can see my dollar all-seeing eye, and it's the oil drop coming out like a tear into the communications tower and the banking system with the military apparatus at the bottom. This is the bank-run world. And this is what paid for all of the propaganda. It's what paid for the simulacrum of reality to be projected on people. And that's what's ending. And that's why getting rid of this choke point in oil is so important, because if it's not done, you're just going to get more of the same type of propaganda. So let me see if I can get this to play for you. There we go, indeed. And I shall be right back at the same time.
Understand why what Trump is doing right now is so historic. You have to understand what was done to us deliberately starting in 1971. When Nixon pulled the plug on Bretton Woods that August, world trade stopped being anchored in real economic production. It became a speculative casino driven by currency fluctuations. Under Henry Kissinger at Nixon's National Security Council, U.S. policy shifted from developing economies and trading around the world to controlling them and subjecting them. In May 1973, 84 of the world's top financial and political insiders gathered in secret at a Bilderberg meeting at Saltsjöbaden, Sweden. Robert O. Anderson of Atlantic Richfield, Lord Greenhill of British Petroleum, George Ball of Lehman Brothers, David Rockefeller, Zbigniew Brzezinski, and many others. William Ingold published the actual documents in his book, A Century of War, Anglo-American Oil Politics and the New World Order. These records show an American speaker laying out a scenario for an imminent 400% increase in OPEC oil revenues, 6 months before the Yom Kippur War triggered exactly that. The purpose was not to prevent the oil shock, it was to manage the petrodollar flood it would create. Kissinger later called it, quote, recycling the petrodollar flows. That phrase tells you everything. The skyrocketing oil price would vacuum wealth out of every industrial economy on earth and pump it directly into the London Eurodollar market and Wall Street. Speculation on oil and other essential commodities replaced gold as the anchor of their new system. In 1975, the Council on Foreign Relations declared that a degree of controlled disintegration in the world economy is a legitimate objective. Controlled disintegration. And they implemented it. Paul Volcker's 20% interest rates crushed American industry in 1979. 3 Mile Island was used to kill the nuclear renaissance. NAFTA, the WTO, and finally Biden's Green New Deal were all attempts to cut and cull the population. And right at the center of the operation sits Iran. In 1953, British and American intelligence overthrew the nationalist Mohammad Mossadegh and installed the Shah. 25 years later, when the Shah began pursuing nuclear power and independent industrial development, they took him out too. In November 1978, Jimmy Carter named Bilderberg's George Ball to head a White House Iran task force under Brzezinski. Ball recommended Washington dump the Shah and back Ayatollah Khomeini's fundamentalist opposition. Ingdahl shows that the blueprint came from British Islamist Bernard Lewis at the May 1979 Bilderberg meeting, a strategy to balkanize the Muslim Near East along tribal and religious lines, what Lewis called the Arc of Crisis. It produced permanent chaos and war, and that was the plan. That's where the IRGC comes in. That's the regime now claiming to outrun and outgun the U.S. Navy in the Strait of Hormuz. MI6, the CIA, and Mossad all had a hand in building it. They protected it for decades because terrorist chaos in the Gulf keeps oil prices up, and high oil prices keep the petrodollar pumping. Drill, baby, drill, and Trump's takedown of the IRGC have placed the oil weapon in this president's hands, and he's using it in the opposite way. Not to crush sovereign nations, not to prop up the IRGC as London's chaos asset, the opposite, to unleash American producers and to blow up London's empire of worthless financial paper. The third weapon they deployed alongside oil and offshore finance has always been propaganda directed at the American people.
So that's what I'm saying. The oil market created the predicate for the propaganda. It's why my whiteboards have featured exactly that framework. That's why they look like this, because oil is at the top of the pyramid when it comes to funding the institutions and the media that's out there creating propaganda.
And it didn't start with CNN or MSNBC or Barack Obama. It started 100 years ago by design as a national security project run out of London. The architect was Walter Lippmann. Lippmann spent World War I at Wellington House, the British psychological warfare headquarters. In 1922, he published Public Opinion, the defining book about how to shape it. The American population, he wrote, was irrational, governed by, quote, pictures inside their heads. Truth had nothing to do with it. Governance belonged instead to a powerful, socially superior.
And it's still that way. Truth still has nothing to do with it, right? I'm not saying truth is the goal. Trump is very loose with the truth, right? I'm not going to deny that, but persuasion is the goal. So understanding the battlefield, Spencer Pratt understands the battlefield. Now, you don't want to go and lie, right? But truth is not really the purpose. The purpose is getting attention. The purpose is moving the needle. The purpose is persuading. And so you've got to look at the persuasion tactics. What I'm saying is the old persuasion tactics that, casting truth aside, the old persuasion tactics, i.e. the legacy media, ignoring things, Karen Bass laughing, and relying on the propagation coming from the media is not going to work. and is not working.
Successful, rich urban social set. That's a quote. And centered in London. That elite would manufacture those pictures through the press. Lippmann called the process manufacturing consent. Everything since has been an extension of that doctrine. After World War II, the CIA's Frank Wisner, Cord Meyer, Alan Dulles, and Richard Helmers built Operation Mockingbird, recruiting editors and reporters at the New York Times, Newsweek, CBS, and the rest into a covert media empire. When the Church Committee partially exposed it in the 1970s, William Casey rebuilt it under Reagan, installing CIA propagandist Walter Raymond inside the White House to run it. Raymond's rule: every story painted in white hats or black hats, no nuance, mobilize rage or entertain, never pursue the truth. Then George Soros, the Ford Foundation, the Knight Foundation, and similar liberal and socialist enterprises became the sole sponsors of investigative reporting and journalism schools at prominent universities. But then came Trump. Because Trump never bowed to them because he knew exactly who they were and treated them with open disdain, they activated everything they had. In December 2016, the Washington Post ran a story called Prop or Not, an anonymous blacklist produced by the Atlantic Council and Interpreter magazine out of the State Department, branding any reporter who questioned Russiagate as a Russian asset. In December 2018, a hack exposed the British Integrity Initiative, funded by the British Foreign Office, the Obama State Department, and NATO, running journalist clusters across Europe and the United States to censor anyone supporting Trump. The Obama State Department's Global Engagement Center, set up in 2016, became the censorship and deplatforming hub, coordinating it all with Silicon Valley. The Biden administration ran that apparatus straight through January 2025. The only reason any of it cracked is Elon Musk buying X. This is why they can't stop. They stand completely discredited if Trump succeeds, not to mention their plausible role in criminal conspiracies against the sitting president. Every lie they tell now is a lie to protect the last lie. Trump knows it. That's why he doesn't flinch. So that's the state of the war going into what will be another monumental week of change ahead. You have to understand the scope of what the president has taken and the forces arrayed against him, not just here, but internationally. You have to walk, like he does every day, in the footsteps of our founders 250 years ago, not knowing what tomorrow will bring, but prepared to meet it with the bold courage and imagination that outsmarted and defeated the most powerful force.
Which is why all of this media savvy and financial savvy that Bitcoiners have, understanding this global financial game, understanding the fiat Ponzi, understanding how oil fits in, understanding how energy fits in, understanding how the bond market fits in. One of the things that Bitcoin has done is really make sense of the world financial system through contrast, right? Once you see Bitcoin, I didn't understand. I worked in this world. I come from this world. I worked in bank law. I worked for the Senate Banking Committee. I understood the old way of seeing this stuff, but didn't even understand how financially illiterate I was until I was able to grok Bitcoin. And then once you understand Bitcoin, the contrast of this fiat system becomes obvious, and you can actually understand the fiat system better. Understanding the fiat system in isolation is very difficult because you take everything seriously. Once you have Bitcoin next to it, you see what is real and what isn't, and you see how the system actually works. And it's that contrast that makes it possible. That's why Bitcoiners, understanding the Iran war through gas prices and through oil pricing and through propaganda, is really the right way to understand and analyze this war. We're not going to get any help from media because there's not really a ground war. There's no embedded journalists. You can't trust the journalists anyways. There's tons of censorship out of UAE. You're not going to see videos. All that's true, by the way. I met a lot of people in Vegas who were coming from Dubai, who I had just seen in Dubai, and all of them said, yeah, I don't send out messages. You're not allowed to, I did see rockets hitting and stuff, but we don't go out and message it because you get a letter very quickly if your account does that, and you're probably not allowed in the country again. So That's what's created a lot of the surrealness to it. But again, if you understand where this is headed, and just by understanding that the OPEC breaking apart is one of the bigger signs, it'll help predict where things are headed. And it gives us the financial savvy to understand what's going on. And, we had to go through a lot to get here, right? I even take a look at the financial media today and the position they're in. Here's another clip of Andrew Ross Sorkin. Here's a clip of Andrew Ross Sorkin. I hope the audio plays yesterday. And this is our advantage here. So this is the GameStop CEO. He owns some Bitcoin. We wish he owned more Bitcoin, but here he is going on the show with Andrew Ross Sorkin. Now, remember, Andrew Ross Sorkin is on record for saying why he didn't get into Bitcoin. Let me even see if I can bring that up, because it's important to reference the truth about him. Hold on. See if I can find it. Don't think I can. Well, his recent video just has too many hits. I can't actually search anything else. So Sorkin, remember Andrew Ross Sorkin said he never bought Bitcoin all these years. And I spoke to him about Bitcoin many times in 2017, 2018. We're at $3,000 Bitcoin when I was talking to him. And his excuse for never buying Bitcoin was, oh, people might laugh at me one day. I'm going to get embarrassed. Here he is in an embarrassing situation, because that's where a lot of these fiat sludge people are headed, whether they like it or not. But one of the reasons we're in the position we're in is because financial journalists are so stupid, and whether or not they're in on it doesn't really matter. They're not really allowing people or empowering people to understand and read the world, to make the world legible from understanding incentives and financial flows. They're doing the opposite. They're complicating things. And so this is a really great video where you see, again, this is the irreverence for journalism, the irreverence for their frame, the disobedience, I guess you can say, just like Spencer Pratt operating within this frame. Here's a video of a Bitcoiner. We wish he had more Bitcoin, but nevertheless, GameStop does have Bitcoin. Here speaking with a legacy journalist, and it's very uncomfortable, but that's kind of the point. And you're seeing here the weakening of legacy media, and the weakening of, in particular, the financial media getting exposed in this way. So this is a great little clip to show you how much things have changed. This is in the Spencer Pratt version of the world we're in now. Now, this video got way more coverage than a normal run-of-the-mill interview. This is sort of everywhere on Twitter today. Talking about buying eBay. No audio. Everyone let me know right away. Thanks, guys. Okay. No one knows why. I was just playing audio, but let's get it up again. I can skip a bit of this too. So here is Andrew Ross Sorkin. I'll skip what we have already. He's just been asking the GameStop CEO about Ryan Cohen about how he's going to pay for his eBay purchase. He's trying to buy eBay. Still no audio, I'm being told. What the heck? Okay, let me try again here. That really makes no sense. I have the audio on. Here it is. Oh, I think I know what went wrong. 1 second. I think I know what went wrong. I was playing the wrong video. God dang it. Okay, we'll get it back here.
Highly confident that they would provide the financing. It's not locked financing.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I hear you. I understand that. I'm just trying to understand where the rest of the money would come from.
It's half cash, half stock.
I hear you. I'm just saying that math doesn't get you to the price that you're offering.
So,
Brian, that's a pretty straightforward question. I don't get it. Like, where's the rest of the money coming from? Andrew laid it out pretty clearly.
I don't understand your question. We're offering half cash, half stock, and we have the ability to issue stock in order to get the deal done.
I like how Narwhal Taco says eBay should put itself up on sale on eBay, and then you have a special buy it now price, right? And buy it now for half cash, half stock. Buy it now.
The full details of the offer are on our website.
So indeed, seeing the game change, seeing people understand how to lure these financial journalists into embarrassing situations, seeing how the power dynamic is shifting, pulling this kind of a stunt on CNBC 10 years ago would have probably crashed this deal entirely. Yesterday, having the GameStop guy pull this in the way that he did, creating the discomfort for and the embarrassment for Andrew Ross Sorkin, seeing him get embarrassed in that way, created way more attention and probably secured the deal. Probably he can make up the whatever 20 billion that he's missing from the press, from this alone, from the media around this alone, which is why, again, understanding how the world works in terms of financial flows, understanding that the legacy media was not actually there to teach you about financial flows, and that you have to go outside of it, again, shows why Bitcoiners in our P2P information environment, in our own financial media. Remember, this is what Bitcoiners were able to create. We've created our own financial media ecosystem outside of what Andrew Ross Sorkin did. I refuse to ever go back on his show after they called me in for George Floyd stuff. I will never, ever, 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 ever go on those shows again. Because when they invited me for George Floyd, it was like, okay, let's hang this white guy. Like, fuck him, right? And that was the end. That was enough for me to go, treacherous motherfuckers. I'm not getting involved with them ever again. So looking at this story, looking at how the game is changing, like I said, in LA with Spencer Pratt, in the Strait of Hormuz, understanding financial flows. Compare this kind of an interaction, right? Andrew Ross Sorkin with the GameStop guy, and which exposes the thing that Bitcoiners have understood about Andrew Ross Sorkin for a long time. He was more worried about prestige and being embarrassed or not embarrassed than he was about actually teaching anyone or getting anyone oriented in financial news. And you compare that to, here's a Bitcoiner, Prof. St. Onge. Prof. St. Onge here predicting where things are headed with OPEC. A great Bitcoiner. He's here advertising the Bitcoin way as part of his show. Here he is predicting on where things are headed in the next few months. And again, why I think that oil prices are headed to an all-time low in America, and why by this summer you're going to see these low oil prices and high Bitcoin prices, why they're going to go like this. And that is really the best way to predict where politics in America are headed, because the media can't do it anymore. You've got to follow the money, and that's the best way to understand where things are headed next. In a world with cheap gas and high Bitcoin, I can't imagine any political change in America. Here's Prof. St. Onge predicting something similar, and this is just because OPEC gone. That's why this OPEC story is so important, because this is where, after the NGO money is gone, it's only the financial media left, and the financial media left and their capacity to manufacture consent through panic is diminishing quickly, because no one is going to be panicking in America if gas is this cheap.
Its third biggest producer, the United Arab Emirates, better known as Dubai, did America's drill baby drill end the most destructive cartel in history. After 58 years in OPEC, the United Arab Emirates last week suddenly announced it is leaving. The reason is they've been fighting for years to produce more oil, but the Saudi-dominated OPEC has said no. That left a third of UAE's capacity idle, leaving $30 to $40 billion on the table every year, about $250,000 per citizen household, basically telling a Ferrari to drive 25. So the background is OPEC, like any cartel, chokes output to keep prices high. This hurts customers. Everybody who drives or heats their house has to pay more, but it helps producers who get higher prices at the expense of selling fewer barrels, which has always caused friction in OPEC. The problem is that trade-off worked until America and Russia turned into oil superpowers, with Canada and even Brazil not far behind. To illustrate, the 1970s, OPEC was almost 90% of global oil exports. Today, after we fracked baby fracked, OPEC is down to just over half. So half is still a big deal. The Hormuz is in the news, but it is not 90%. And it dramatically worsens the price for output trade-off for OPEC members when Americans and Russians are drinking their milkshakes. So who wins, who loses? For the moment, not much changes. The Strait of Hormuz is driving oil prices. But once the war is over, according to analyst Procurability, global oil prices could drop $5 to $10 on UAE alone, which is about 50 cents a gallon at the pump. It's great for countries that import a lot of oil, like Europe, Japan, and China. It's mixed for countries that are basically self-sufficient, like the U.S., and of course it is terrible for countries that export a lot of oil, especially Saudi Arabia and Russia. The wider question is, will other OPEC members follow Dubai out the door? Does the entire cartel break up? Because if that happens, it could drop oil prices closer to $20 compared to pre-war. You'd be looking at $40 to $45. You'd also be looking at a paradise of $2 gasoline. That would mean roughly $500 billion transferred from producers to consumers, which alone would also grow the entire world economy, since oil and gas go into almost everything: factories, trucking, plastics, chemicals, cement, steel, fertilizer. Now, this is all catastrophic for Saudi or Russia, who might lose $100 billion between them. It'd be a gift from heaven for Europe and Asia. Together, they gain hundreds of billions worth of cheap oil. It's almost as good for the U.S., since we are still a net importer of oil, like Canada and Venezuela, but we've got a very big economy to benefit from cheaper oil. So cheap oil grows manufacturing, grows logistics, when America's got a lot more of that than it has oil fields. Put it together, and America might get about $100 billion of benefit, which is $1,000 per household per year. So what's next? Brought to you by the Bitcoin.
Which is why I think that that is a more persuasive argument for manufacturing consent in America than all of these propagandists. And that's why you're seeing the political fracturing of America, that the red versus blue, the old Democrat versus Republican is completely gone. You're getting something completely different now. Something else is taking over entirely. And what's taking over, you know, you can start to see that the formula, indeed, the formula of American politics are shifting very quickly. That's why it's no longer red and blue. That's why it's going full communist versus Bitcoin. And again, Bitcoin, just like Bitcoin gave meaning and understanding to the fiat system through contrast, you're going to see Bitcoin consolidate in its explanation of America, of Americana in this political sphere, why Bitcoin and cheap gas are going up against communism. And that's why you've even got Fetterman acknowledging this. Fetterman here yesterday saying he's probably going to quit the Democrat Party. They've lost their way, he says. I suspect he's gearing up to leave the Democrat Party before the 2026 elections. He will either become an independent who caucuses with the GOP or an outright Republican. This is yet another Senate seat Dems need to worry about. The midterm elections are rapidly slipping away from the Dems, a trend that will accelerate as common sense Americans focus on how radical the Dems are becoming. And I think you're going to see that in many other ways. Just the cheap gas that we saw there from Prof. Saint Onge, and understanding again that the political divide is becoming more and more commie versus Bitcoiner. Even bringing it back to the LA question, right? We're seeing now disturbing new details have emerged about the man accused of igniting the fire that authorities say ultimately set off the deadly Palisades firestorm. That's why the LA race is becoming a proxy for something bigger in America in terms of persuasion. That's why it's becoming communism versus the rebuilding. I suspect Spencer Pratt is going to become an outright Bitcoiner very soon, is going to be doing Bitcoin content as part of his campaign to tap into this new contrast. Walter Kern here saying, as I have been telling the world since December 2024, Luigi is a contrivance intended to form the basis of violent political pseudo-religion. Actions will be committed in his name or retrospectively sanctified using his name. Many of these actions, though portrayed in the media as the work of individual disciples, will not be as spontaneous as they seem or at all organized, plotted, calculated attacks by powerful interests, and thus be disguised as lonesome, emotional crusading. So Walter Kern here with a great prediction. And this is that whole communist shift. That's why there is no more Democrat Party. That's why the messaging is going more and more extreme. That's why the polarization is becoming more and more extreme. That's why you're seeing all of this Palisades fire. We can officially add the Palisades fire with all their injury, death, and destruction to the long and accelerating list of modern left-wing violence. And it gets even better. It gets even better than that. You're seeing the whole Met Gala thing yesterday. Of course, Mamdani didn't show up. The whole thing at the Met Gala is everyone hates Elon. It's all anti-Jeff Bezos, all anti-Elon Musk. There's literally Elon Musk has literally nothing to do with the event, and yet they turned it into a forum to hate on Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. I guess something Jeff Bezos did. And it gets even worse. It's not just that. This is how you can see these shifts just becoming reality. Yesterday, the attempted assassin of Trump from 2 weekends ago had his first day in court, and look at what the judge says. Judge apologized to him, or he apologized to Cole Allen. The magistrate judge Zia Faroukhi said that he has fascinated and disturbed by Allen's treatment in jail. Allen was placed on suicide watch when he was first imprisoned. Prosecutors argued that since Allen told investigators he did not expect to survive the alleged attack, he could be in danger to himself. But an incredulous Faroukhi wasn't convinced by the argument, drawing comparisons between Allen and defendants arrested for rioting at the Capitol on January 6th. To me, it's extremely disturbing that he was put in 5-point restraints. A person with no criminal history, it's troubling. I have never heard of one January 6th defendant who was put in 5-point restraints or in a safe cell. If the only way to keep him safe is the most punitive thing, that's a problem. At a minimum, I should be apologizing to him, the judge says. He should be apologizing to him. We're obligated to make sure he's taken care of. Mr. Allen, I'm sorry things have not been the way they are supposed to. And Cernovich says, do you understand finally what is happening? This is Bolshevik stuff, guys. This is exactly how you can see that politics are becoming a communist versus Bitcoin, why you're seeing this complete shift. There is no more Democrat Party. There are no more centrists. Nothing like that is going on anymore. And you're seeing again and again the financial understanding of the world is becoming more and more important, because political lines now have almost nothing to do with ideology. They're everything to do with the ability to brainwash, persuade around these economic lines. That's why, you can see right away the weakening of the system in Canada. Here's Carney again yesterday talking about the international order, right? So this guy's supposedly a central banker. He's a financial genius. He's a guru, they say. Here he is. It's my strong personal view. His prediction is the international order will be rebuilt, and it will be rebuilt out of Europe. Europe is going to do it. Here, Rod Martin, 15 years ago, Europe's economy was larger than America's. Now it's 2/3 the size. Carney was part of that catastrophe. Now he's taking Canada down the same path. That's why you're seeing all of this stuff come out the way it is. That's why you're seeing Canada go down this communist path. That's why you're seeing messaging going in this direction. What is this rupture Mark Carney keeps talking about? Trump is the rupture, not so much Trump, but the America First strategy. For decades, Europe and their NGOs were solely dependent on American funding. The UN, the WHO, none of the organizations would exist without American funding. Trump and his inner circle correctly identified the poison. Again, that's another source of this propaganda, and that's why it is being pinched off. That's why the NGO stuff had to be first. From there, you moved into what we're seeing now in the American political fight and abroad with all the other funding mechanisms like this oil price cabal. A globalist agenda that sought to destroy American freedom and values while moving hegemony away from the United States and into China. In response, the Trump administration pulled the funding and removed the United States as the central body within these organizations. This moved Canada and the EU nations closer to China. So why China? The banking elites and tech billionaires saw in China a perfect authoritarian system that could be grafted onto the Western world. I refer to it as communo-fascism, a system that is structurally Marxist and economically fascist. It's the worst of both extremes. That is why we experience woke, or in other words, a Marxist cultural revolution in the West. The first step was to transform the culture. Now that the culture has been sufficiently infected with the poison, the next step is to transform global politics and economies. This is why Mark Carney was rammed into Canada as Liberal leader when Trudeau stepped down. He's the banker who was handed the monumental task of detaching Canada from the United States, and he's uniquely qualified for the job since he is a card-carrying member of the elite banking class that effectively owns the EU nations and is seeking this new world order. Some refer to it as a City of London conspiracy. I'm still learning what that means, so I can't speak directly to it. But I'm positive this group, bankers, tech billionaires, etc., are attempting to capture global democracies all at once. This is why Canada is introducing censorship and surveillance legislation that mirrors what we're seeing in Britain and the EU. There is no coincidence. So right now, as of this moment, the very notion of freedom rests on the shoulders of Trump and his administration. It's an uncomfortable thought. No matter how you feel about Trump, the free world will live or die, depending on the actions of the American empire. And whether you like it or not, America has to win. And this is Carney again yesterday, pulling for this communo-fascist system. And, again, it is their economic illiteracy, though. Here's what they've got. This is the best they have. And this is the basically the Treasury Secretary of Canada yesterday describing the new sovereign wealth fund in Canada as they've got a lot of access to debt, and it's now going to give people a chance to invest. But economic illiteracy, I mean, just listen to this. This is the reason why they've got to create a $25 billion sovereign wealth fund in Canada, which is really just an insurance policy to get other people to spend money, and they'll get bailed out with this $25 billion. The international press, wow. Citizens, not again. My fucking Lord. How is it even possible? Sometimes it lets me share. Sometimes I can't. Nobody knows. Just literally no one fucking knows. Okay.
You know, it's not, if you and I would wanted to invest in a pipeline or invest in a project of national interest, it's pretty difficult as retail investors to join in. Now you'll have the possibility, and if you look at the international press, they said this is Canada at its best in a way. It is a sovereign wealth fund, but in a very Canadian way, you're allowing citizens to be able to join us in building. This is great. I mean, we're the only in the world which allows citizen people to be able to join in if they so wish and benefit from the growth that we're going to see in the Canadian economy.
I never heard about the stock market. Brand new idea. And again, it requires really powerful levels of financial illiteracy to take any of this stuff seriously. And indeed, that's why Carney is negotiating from this point of view. Here he is describing his negotiating tactics going forward in the world. And imagine, here he says Canada won't leverage energy critical minerals in trade talks. That's all they got, and they're not going to leverage it, right? So again, after hearing Mark Carney talk to European leaders today about warehousing these assets rather than letting Canadian companies sell to the highest bidder to boost our dollar, the government wants to use our resources as diplomatic chips in European power plays. That's an interesting priority for nations that account for around 5% of our trade combined. The government isn't trying to fix the economy. They are building globalist resume. By warehousing resources, they are treating Canadian minerals like private reserve for international alliances rather than a national outset. This rebuilding the world order out of Europe isn't a trade strategy for Canadians. It's positioning exercise for a post-national leader who values a seat at the Davos table over the bottom line of Canadian companies. And that's why none of this is going to work, because the place with energy in Alberta has the signatures it needs. Albertans have reportedly submitted 300,000 signatures in bankers' boxes, 43 bankers' boxes. That's just perfect. Alberta is looking to trigger a referendum to leave Canada, smashing the 170,000 requirement set by Elections Canada. This is going to happen. Buckle up, Canada. Breaking 301,000 signatures have officially been announced for the Alberta independence petition. This is by far beyond required threshold to trigger the Alberta independence vote on October 19th, a massive day for Alberta independence movement. I continue to believe it's going to work out. Here's a reason. Again, it comes down to the communist frame. Here, Keith Wilson says, many Albertans told me personally they were afraid their bank accounts could be frozen or that they could be penalized by government simply for signing the petition. They also shared their shame and sadness that Canada has reached a point where citizens are afraid to participate in a basic civic process. But they all said the same thing on October 19th. In the privacy of a secret ballot, they will be voting yes to independence. So worried about spies, worried about commies, worried about tattletales. And you know, from my own perspective, why I continue to predict Alberta will vote for separation. Just think about where we are in the game right now. they're probably in the 30% zone currently. There still is no champion. There's no champion public speaker of Alberta independence. There's no leader of it yet. No one has dared step up. None of these people, Keith Wilson or that other lawyer with the cowboy hat, none of those guys are going to be able to really take the leadership here. Someone is going to come up though, because on the other side, you've got the usual suspects in Alberta, people who used to run the Conservative Party, people I worked for, just more of these sludge people, Jason Kenney and these types. And it's just not going to be enough. And so there is no Spencer Pratt yet in Alberta, but there will be. And I think they're one Spencer Pratt away from winning this thing, and one savvy communications person away from this thing. It might even be Trump. Honestly, it might even be Trump. We'll see. Trump is headed to Cuba next again, and you're going to see with this Cuban fight even greater articulation between this communist versus Bitcoiner frame. Nick Shirley was just there. Nick Shirley here posting a video yesterday just about how bad things are. He went to Cuba to investigate some of this stuff and do his thing as he does. Turns out that in communist world, you can't do any of this. So I was taken hostage. Sounds like Canada. Taken hostage in Cuba. I went to Cuba to document the humanitarian crisis and show life under 60 plus years of communism and how now amid the US blockade, once I landed, they seized all my cameras except my iPhone and had intelligence agents following me all day until my security noticed their spies tailing us to the hotel where they waited all night for us to come down. Under communism, there is no free speech, and those who show the reality or speak up are imprisoned. Me going without a planned Cuban government guide nearly got me and my security taken hostage or imprisoned. The situation in Cuba is much worse than anyone knows. That's exactly what's going on there, and that's exactly why all of this story is turning into communism versus Bitcoin, and why this contrast is going to be what people fight about for a little while anyway. And again, don't forget it was it was Nick Shirley's work with audits. And again, why that will continue to be one of the biggest stories, because complaining about all the thieving on the communist side is a death blow to communism, and why I think it's just going to continue to be a big story. Headed back to California as usual, and why the LA mayor race is one of the big stories. 94 Medicaid home health companies purport to occupy this office building, taking more than 66 million US trash tokens of your money. They provide free butlers to immigrants. No windows on the outside hides the fact that there's no one on the inside. There's an entire street of these. And indeed, you got JD Vance. These shocking allegations, if true, show why the fraud task force work is so important. I'm directing the task force to look into and take immediate action to prosecute any fraudsters involved and stop all further payments as appropriate. And it's just getting more and more. Daily Wire did a big thing on it yesterday. The fraud is unrelenting. Everywhere you look, there's more, and the numbers are startling. Again, it's just going to continue to be a big story all the time. And why I think that you're starting to see, even with the story with Fetterman, you're starting to see Democrats understanding what is going on here. Oliver Stunkel says a lack of competitive races means that control of the House representatives will likely be determined by November's midterm election by fewer than 10% of Americans. With the winners in most districts all but assured, a single ballot is cast. This is the redistricting story. Ben Hertz says Democrats are now admitting that the midterm elections for the House are slipping away from them. Senate's not looking good for them either. Now the Dems are on the way to nominating the Nazi tattoo guy who calls himself Antifa super soldier in Maine, and a radical left Islamist supporter of Hamas in Michigan who is campaigning with Hassan Piker, who says America deserved 9/11. And here you're seeing indeed the predictions out of this place. Washington Post, the Save America Act could have turned Nevada and New Mexico into safe Trump seats during the 2024 election. Trump won Nevada narrowly, lost New Mexico by 6%. Washington Post says that requiring U.S. citizenship and a photo ID to vote would deliver a clear advantage to the GOP. In other words, WAPO all but outright admits the Dems cheat and an enormous number of non-citizens are voting. And that's why you had Trump on Truth Social last night saying exactly that. We cannot allow the election that is conducted unconstitutionally simply for the convenience of state legislatures. Here, War Clandestine saying the following. This sounds significant. Trump is calling on state legislators to fix their unconstitutional districts, which Trump estimates will net the GOP 20 plus seats in the midterms. Combine this with voter ID, and the Dems are staring at a bloodbath in November. That's how I see it. Because again, this Nazi guy, I mean, this is who they're going with. He's got a message, I guess, but it's going to be a tough one. And indeed, the fake news simply can't conjure this kind of hilarity and turn it into any wins, I don't think. BitPain says, so to summarize, if you're a low IQ Democrat, you believe Elon Musk waving to the crowd saying, my heart goes out to you as a Nazi salute. Secretary of War having a Jerusalem cross, a symbol of Christianity tattoo, makes him a white supremacist. Real Donald Trump, whose daughter married an Orthodox Jew and converted to Judaism, is actually Adolf Hitler reincarnate. And Graham Fermain having a literal symbol of the Nazis, SS, tattooed onto his chest is actually totally meaningless, nothing burger. Not quite persuasive enough, I don't think, and why it's no amount of media projecting this stuff is going to work, and why you're going to continue to see, I think, a contrast of a political divide in America that has completely new aesthetics and completely new fault lines, and we're going to be talking about it all, and we're going to be talking about it with Hank.
No.
How you doing?
And I'm doing well, Nolan. How are you on this Tuesday?
I am enthusiastic about the future of humanity, my friend.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it.
And I saw that great video of you and Adam back in the office on Friday. That worked out pretty well.
It did, boy. He was such a kind, just shockingly funny in his own way. Man, he got here and picked up the Rubik's Cube on my desk and solves it in 30 seconds. I found out he's a speed cuber. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, my kids are bugging me. I got a Bitcoin Rubik's Cube when I was in Las Vegas. It was part of the party bag or whatever.
That's nice.
And, so yeah, but my kids are bugging me to solve it. And
it's just like it's a pattern. You just do like 3 moves over and over again, and it works.
Yeah. I'm gonna go learn the pattern. I just don't remember. We didn't have such things when I was a kid playing with Rubik's cubes, so we all literally spent weeks trying to figure it out.
I had a buddy. I was actually telling that in college. My roommate, he was practicing a Rubik's Cube before this. I mean, we still had the internet, but people didn't reveal these secrets yet. And he was practicing it for weeks, and I'm like, "What are you doing this for?" He's like, "It's gonna come in handy." Right out of college, he gets an interview at Lehman Brothers. Final interview. The guy has a Rubik's Cube on the desk.
Yes.
My friend picks it up and just solves it while he does it. Ends up getting the job.
Yes.
Yada, yada, financial crisis. Lost it 2 months later, but it worked. It worked. I
had a similar one for I was doing a like summer, I don't know, school theater in college, and I actually had painted the lightning bolt that Nwanda does in Dead Poets Society, that famous movie, to like give himself. I actually did it to myself. Like I painted it just to inspire myself. And the casting director actually brought up the movie. Have you ever seen Dead Poets Society? And I was like, and I got to say, the name is Nwanda. And I actually had it was not pre-planned. It was just one of those, amazing. Sometimes you get
works in some ways. It does, you do, but it's the preparation. I seem to get a lot more lucky when I prepare. So
yeah. So what have you prepared for us this afternoon?
Oh man, there's a lot.
Well, your morning, but my afternoon.
We got a stack show. Obviously, we got you for the first hour. We're going to be talking about what's going on with this ceasefire, or is it? I don't know. Additionally, we have
kind of ceasefire where everyone keeps fighting. It's our favorite.
It's a new one. I'm interested to chat about it. We got some issues with freedom of the press. We're going to be talking about. Elizabeth Warren went viral online because people said that she actually sold Spirit stock 2 weeks before the announcement of the closure happened. There's some good stuff, and then our second hour too. We have senior Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Dalkunis will be joining us.
He's great. He's great. Yeah, lucky.
Yeah,
big get. Awesome, man.
Yeah, so we're excited to talk some ETFs and talk with you. So I'll let you wrap up things here, but everybody stay tuned for Nolan on Roxham TV News. We're coming up next.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Hank. You heard Hank. Everyone stay tuned. We're going to be over there having fun on Hank's show. I'm going to be saying goodbye to all of you. I see there's so many comments. I missed a lot of them today. I think there's an old video of Back giving an interview, and the interview has to point out that he was solving a cube below camera in seconds without looking down. Yeah, there you go. He would have been play guitar instead of the Rubik's Cube. Nobody wishes they figured out the cube. They always wish they played more guitar. Yeah, then they killed rock and roll, guys. We got to get rock and roll back. We need rock and roll back. 5x5 is an old military radio term for a good signal. Like it. Cuba Libre, Trump. La Viva Shirley Cubano. 500K would be better, 10%, but good showing. Yeah, pretty good. Hey, Young Gun, what's with the 5x5 mean? There you go. Now we know. Military stuff. Mini tech rant. We didn't do it. Well, thanks everyone for coming today. I appreciate it. Damn them. Long live rock and roll. Exactly. We love the rock and roll. Great show. Thanks, Escape the Matrix. Thanks, everyone. Choice until you basically are forced to invest. There we go. Your computer audio. I'm reading some comments over on YouTube, but we're done here for the day. Sorry if I didn't get to your comment. I appreciate everyone who leaves the comments. I appreciate everyone who comes and watches. I'm going to play the logo and you're going to see the thanks for watching screen, but thanks for watching. I got to go stir the constituent parts to the lasagna that I'm making for when my family gets back. I started it this morning. That's why I was out at the, that's why you watched a little bit of a video for that 1 minute. I had to go stir and make sure everything was good. I'm going to go stir it now and then I'll be on Hank's show. So logo, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, everyone. Peace.